Bizzle, tizzle, pizzle. The Black Tower Podcast. Josh Sorvon Mahiel signing in. Hey, you there. Get in line.
Oh, we had you house trained, so there'd be no more pizzle in the house. No more pizzle in the tower, sir.
Conduct yourselves in a manner befitting a soldier dedicated to Rashomon of the Black Tower. Line up properly to receive your weekly dose of taint.
Doses of taint will continue until morale improves.
The taint will continue until morale improves. Now, tonight, I have a special treat for myself. Because I'll be drinking my Sailor Jerry's in a wheel and chill stein. Shameless plug. A little bit of a plug. I don't care. They're pretty awesome. They're actually probably recording in about 30 minutes.
Well, I think they do live, don't they?
I don't know if they do live.
Yeah, they stream live. I think they do a live show. Pretty sure they do a live show.
Oh, there you go. Don't say that right now. We only got like 4 people here. Stay here, guys.
Josh, we already got their money. It'll be fine.
True that. So hey, no, but for real, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Black Tower Podcast. It's another day, another dollar, another dose of taint.
Our Ahmed Khan Mahail Daniel is out waving the flag at some folks. So is out on official tower business.
Waving the flag of our Lord and Savior, the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah. But as far as we know, he should be back next week. So yeah, wish him a safety or whatever you call it on his travels. He'll be fine.
Probably. That stuff. All the stuff.
All the nice stuff that we're supposed to say because we're nice people. That we actually do mean. I'm just lazy as fuck. And I'm tired of shit. So.
We're not nice people, but we do play nice people on YouTube. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Welcome. You need to go to... That's right. You need to go to blacktowerpod.com. Why? I'll tell you why. blacktowerpod.com is the most amazing website in existence. And that's scientifically proven. It has everything Black Tower podcast necessary. And it's just one of those things that you can't live without. Once you go there, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, Josh was right. I can't live without this in my life.
Yeah. Oh, and by the time this goes live, like Matt Steiger pointed out, the Wheel and Chill folks will have had an interview with Kate Redding and Michael Kramer. So hopefully that went well. I'm sure it did. Because Kate and Michael are amazing, awesome, very kind folks, and Wheel and Chill are amazing, awesome, super kind folks as well. So
there's a theme there.
Late congrats for the time this goes public, a week and a half after. But we know we said it before.
They're going to be like, why did we get a bump of so many viewers? And by so many viewers, I mean 3 viewers.
Yeah. Hey, a bump's a bump, man. You never know.
Hey, that's right.
Could be all it takes.
Take a bump.
Speaking of all it takes for you to get more of your favorite stuff from the Black Tower Podcast is blacktowerpod.com. Go there, click the buttons, do the things, and keep your eyes peeled for information about the Gathering Madness 2022. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Damn.
There's some cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Not to overly hype anything up. It's nothing like incredibly spectacular as far as like a secret reveal from Rafe or anything like that. So,
yeah. So, that'd be cool.
At least not yet. If there is anything like that, we don't know about it. So we'll find out the same time you do.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But the Gathering Madness is happening.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's a little early. The Stein must be super potent, man.
I'm going to drink.
Jesus.
Sorry. Okay, I'm here. I promise.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Yeah, dude. So at work, I don't want to get too far off topic, but at work, I finally started we've got in probably 60 computers. And the stupid thing is we've only got 100 users on the network. Why do we have 60 computers? I don't know, but we're supposed to refresh. We're supposed to do refreshes on all these computers, which is take the old one, give them a new one. I've been messaging people for 2 to 3 months right now. So today what I did was I went to the distro lists and I went all employees. And I said, if you have a desktop computer, you are wrong. I will be turning it off by the end of the week if you don't get with me. And I got 12 emails at the end of the day. How weird is that?
I'll trade you.
Oh, my brains are a bit scrambled right
now. Let's see. There's 953 tickets. Subtract 33 from that.
Oof.
That's what, 920? Because there's 33 seats that I don't know exactly where they're at, but we have canceled tickets for them. So there's 920 seats I have right now that I know exactly, well, roughly where they are, that we have to go clear BIOS passwords and pull hard drives out of for them to be shipped back. Because they are the old machines of Tech Refresh. And then at some point in between now and fucking March, the guys that manage the assets are supposed to be getting in 1,000 new seats for Tech Refreshes. I would, I mean, well, we probably wouldn't have we'd probably have just me and one network tech if we only had 100 people on the network.
Oh man, good times.
Yeah.
Good times. So that's why my brains are scrambled. But the Gathering Madness is coming up. It's going to be awesome. You want to be there. It's going to be in Los Angeles this year.
You want to gather that madness. You need to gather that madness.
You want to gather with us.
I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain the taint to the man who rises and falls under the blanket of madness I provide and then has the nerve to question the manner in which I provide it.
I want Sidene!
You can't handle Sidene.
There it is.
Did you order the cleansing? You're goddamn right I did.
Welcome to the Black Tower. This is what you would expect from us. Now, before we get in,
name that movie. If you can't name the movie, you owe us $10.
Crunch the. That's right. That's a fact. Before we get into this, before we crack the bone and suck the marrow, so sweet, blood so sweet, we need you to get protected, don't we, Andrew?
Oh yeah, and I gotta change which spoiler warning I had planned to use because I don't want to use the one that talks about Daniel when he's not here. So we did
use Gilbert. I like Gilbert.
Yeah, let's do Gilbert.
The following show contains spoiler for the entire Wheel of Time series. If you have not finished the series, you are at risk of being spoiled. You have been warned. What does this even mean?
You know, he was one of the good ones. Moment of silence there for Gilbert G.
For the Gist of GGs.
Word. Okay, so now that you're protected.
Speaking of GG.
GG, gangsta.
We're going to talk about some folks with some good game. That good game comes in the form of being battle-trained, battle-tested, battle-hardened, and battle-tainted. What are we talking about today, Josh?
We're going to talk about Black Tower battle tactics. Now, I'm supremely excited for this one. for a number of reasons. One, we're going to start off with, basically it's like episode 1, the first time the Black Tower enters combat, which we all know is the greatest scene in the Wheel of Time series, Demise Wells. And then we're going to talk about how those formations have evolved, how they've been refined a little bit in like the Battle of Maradon under Rodel Iturralde. Things are a little different there as well. So we're talking about the tactics of specifically male channelers used in these different battles. Because as we know, the male channelers don't have the same restrictions or limitations as their female counterparts in the White Tower. And then if time allows us, because this is a subject that Andrew and I can wax very long upon, if we have some time, maybe we could talk about some future refinements and future battle formations, find out what's going on. Maybe like I'd like to discuss like an Ashiman version, like a channeling version of a Black Tower phalanx, like a Spartan phalanx, but just amped all the way up with saidin. Huh? That'd be badass.
No, I like the idea. I don't think they do it, but it would look really cool.
I mean, probably not. Probably not. The tactics probably evolve well to a point where such battle formations are entirely obsolete. But let's
you
talk
still
about
have the formations, but I don't see the phalanx as we think of it, like the Spartan phalanx being utilized. Because what made the Spartan phalanx so effective was the amount of coverage that each person offered the person next to them, because they had to use a physical shield. Whenever you can all channel and just create massive walls of air that protect you from apparently everything, you don't really need a phalanx.
What would an Ashiman phalanx look like?
Okay, I got you.
Obviously, they would not be standing shoulder to shoulder, packed in real tight, leaning on each other for strength and rigidity, while the second rank, throw lunges, spears, and whatnot. But it would be interesting to see maybe, if you can do a solid wall of air 5 feet wide, maybe they've got them positioned, arm's length, doom, 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 wall of air, second rank, second wall of air up top, and then a third rank lobbing fireballs. That'd be badass. Fourth
or
rank,
you just do the ultimate defense.
Or no, third rank underneath with like earth attacks, and then a fourth rank with the fireballs.
Yeah, I mean the earth attacks would be like I always see the earth attacks, earth-based attacks as their greatest vulnerability, because for everything else that's launched at you, whether it's cannonballs, whether it's ballista, lightning, anything that can be launched at you, that comes at you, just open a gateway. It'll either unravel on contact, or it'll go through and you can just redirect it back at them. I mean, it's the thing that we always wanted Wong or anybody from the Doctor Strange side of the universe in Marvel to do, and then finally Wong does it in Shang-Chi and the
Shang-Chi.
Yeah,
good callback. I love how he's even talking shit too after in the locker room. He's like, "See, that's why you don't. Now you'll think twice before punching me with full force. I told you to pull your punches."
Yeah. I mean, what's also hilarious is the fact that at the time Wong is fighting in this arena, he's also the Sorcerer Supreme.
The Sorcerer Supreme just pops over to, fighting rings for the weekend.
Yeah. I could be very wrong about that. Somebody will correct me in the comments or in the live chat eventually.
No, I'm pretty sure you're right. I think that's exactly what he is.
Oh yeah, because they do address the blip. His friend Katie or whatever her name is, she talks about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about the blip.
That's right. We're talking about the Black Tower. So the first iteration of the Black Tower, actually, it's kind of funny that we talk about the Spartan phalanx, because they've actually got pretty similar to a Spartan phalanx at the Battle of Demise Wells. They have to storm the beach, right? They have to establish a foothold. They have to get a beachhead. They open up gateways. They come pouring through the gateways, basically causing chaos and destruction and death, fire and blood and explosions, and it's great. Once enough of them get into the area, they're able to raise a shield, a dome over the entire area, to establish a means of regrouping, right?
Yeah.
Once they're able to do that, there are scenes where there are Ashiman holding the shield, and all the other Ashiman are pouring out of the gateways. They're able to establish that Rand is out of the box. He came out. Hey, everybody, I'm the dragon. And he's like, Taim, I want you to take these fools to school. And so Taim gets up there and says, Ashiman form ranks. They all line up. Very militaristic, very rank and file. And then he says, Ashiman kill. And what happens is, it's interesting because I didn't think about this till just now, is the phalanx that I was describing would work well against infantry if it were just infantry. In this particular case, they've got shielding over the top of them, mostly to protect them from siege weapons and other channelers. So when Taim gives the order Ashiman kill, they lift the wall of air just enough for Aiel to come running in, and then they just head exploding and rolling ring of earth and fire, and they just destroy these guys. They just decimate the hell out of every last Shido that has any kind of idiot notion of glory against the Black Tower. Come on, get out of here.
What's that kind of age-old military joke of like, oh, we're surrounded? Good. Then we can fire in every direction. It's like, oh, we're surrounded. Well, on the upside, we don't have to worry about accidentally, shooting towards our own guys. Not entirely the case here. But yeah, I mean, now, like, whenever they start coming out of the gateway, I definitely envision it a lot like that first. So when you've watched the movie 300, obviously, and a lot of people have, though it's very theatrical and it's exaggerated in many ways. Their first clash with the Persian military, once they finally get pushed back and they hold, I'm thinking from that point forward, the Battle of Demise Wells with the arrival of the Ashiman to me seems very similar. Because what the Spartans do is they surge forward, shove, and then stab to create room, and then advance. And that's what the Ashiman do as they pour out of the gateways. They take and they surge forward with an attack.
Line.
Yeah, they destroy a line of enemy and they advance the wall of air, essentially. And they just keep doing this until they've created what their training tells them is a wide enough berth to allow them to pretty much sit there and just talk until somebody decides what they want to do. Because at that point, they're so well protected. Because there's what, 200 Ashiman that come through?
Couple hundred, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about 200.
A minimal number of them holding this shield, maybe a dozen at best, with how much ground they have to cover. Especially taking into account how many of these guys have talents for shields. Because you better believe Taim was smart enough to be like, you've got a talent for shields. I need you on shield duty. So you're going to be, the third guy through the portal. I want the first two guys who are really talented with, fire and head explosions to go through there, and then, whatever. So they have this clearing established where and that's what I was saying, where they're able to regroup. There's no immediate threat. There's no immediate danger, and everybody's able to kill what remaining Shido exist within the dome, gather their weapons, sit down for a minute, catch their breath, and even when Taim gives the order, Ashaman kill. Like the rest of the military presence there just kind of goes like, okay, like, well, it looks like they've got it under control. We're gonna stand here and see if they need us.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else joins in the fray.
Debatable. Because when this whole thing starts off, you got this kind of quintessential like old westerns television. The old black and white television shows like Zorro and the Lone Ranger and all this kind of stuff, where every time any group of more American settlers were getting attacked by Native Americans, they would encircle the wagons as protection, which is exactly what the Aes Sedai and the younglings and all try to do, because they're like, well, we ain't got shit else, so let's just use what we can. But what I think stands out some of the most is this isn't just like a theoretical thing that Mazrim Taim has taught or preached about. The way this is executed has every hallmark of a tried and tested practiced battle tactic. They ran drills, and I definitely believe that Mazrim Taim had himself and other Ashman hurling lethal attacks at the Ashaman being trained and forced to hold a dome of air to protect themselves. And he's like, because that's definitely, Taim's mentality, and it's also the order basically from Rand, make weapons. And Taim's like, look, you sink or you swim. He is definitely the dad that throws you in the water to learn to swim, but it's not just the water. It's the deepest section he can find in the Arctic, and you better swim for a while. So, I mean, this takes precision.
Fireballs at you while you try to swim.
Yeah, I mean, this takes precision, because it's got to be a strong enough weave amongst all of those holding the dome of air to where nobody can push through it, nobody can collapse. Because you don't just have like a couple people pushing on this wall of air. You don't just have a couple people stabbing at it. You literally have tens of thousands of people worth of pressure pushing against it. And it doesn't budge, it doesn't falter, it doesn't shimmer, it doesn't shake or anything. And they're pushing against it so hard that whenever they do lift up this dome of air for the Shido Aiel to charge inside to their own slaughter, the moment that it lifts up, it does a lot, like again with the Spartans, where they would shove and it would stun the enemy and they would be vulnerable to attack.
Right.
And that's what happened to the first one or two lines of Shido. As soon as the wall lifted up enough, because everybody ignored the fucking massive indication, hey, they're about to counterattack. Oh, let's raise a banner through the central hole in the dome of air. Oh, look at all the lightning dancing across it. It's incredible. I mean, now I can't wait to see it. Hopefully it looks good on TV, but yeah, no, it's impressive just how what am I trying to say? Like, not formulaically, but by the numbers, this tactic was executed.
I think that's one of the things that sets this scene so well is how well Robert Jordan wrote it, right? So they're coming through the gateways, they're using individual attacks, individual killing mechanisms, individual killing methods, and you've got Ashaman jumping out, exploding heads, stabbing with swords, punching with fists, and it's the special forces on crack. They run out, they establish this foothold, they establish a safe place underneath a wall of air, and that's when they're able to launch their squad attacks, which are absolutely devastating to the Shido forces. And it
will need surprise to set up ambush.
Yeah, I mean, and then when you talk about there was obviously drilling and training, I mean, what does everybody say or what does at least Matt Cawthon say when it comes to battle plans? The battle plans are only as good until the first arrow is fired. And then he says, from there, you just got to be able to read the field, and you got to be able to move, and you got to be flexible, and Not so with the Black Tower. They came in like a massive cudgel and a well disciplined and precise cudgel, which is terrifying. They filed in, they immediately established a foothold, they immediately lined up in different ranks, they immediately were prepared to launch a squad, like a squad attack, working in perfect conjunction with each other. And as soon as Taim gave think about the order that he gave too. Ashaman, kill. That was the order he gave. They all knew exactly what to do, and they all executed it perfectly. So, yes, I know Taim's a bad guy, but that does not mean he is a bad guy. He is responsible for building the Black Tower up from nothing and teaching those men how to organize. Because as we know, the lessons weren't just about saidin. They were also about organization, drilling, procedure, combat tactics. Like there was a whole thing involved in becoming an Ashaman. And not all Ashaman were under the control of Nasr Taim.
Something else to think about, talking about like with what Matt said about battles and plans, is there's something that the Ashaman can do that until he has channelers in his own ranks of sufficient number, Matt honestly can never hope to do. What makes Matt such an effective leader is he has the knowledge and the instincts to instantly react to a changing battle space. So he staves off the worst possible outcomes, and he responds in what could be considered an optimal way. But he doesn't have the power to force the battle space to be exactly what he wants. The Ashaman do. Oh, we want a place where we can just stand here and talk. Bam, dome of air. We're completely safe.
Yep.
In this instance, because they're
now
still
we can
like
organize.
Yeah, there's lightning raining down around them, and it's glancing off of this dome of air, and it's hitting the Shaido themselves. So the wise ones stop because they're like, we're just killing our own people, and of course Ivana gets pissed, but
because she.
But I mean, they're not the only people that kill their own people on the same side as them. But I can't imagine, because there's one thing to be trained in a battle tactic. The military can train you all day long on what it's like to go into combat, but they can never teach you what it's to be in combat. So I can't imagine what grueling training these Ashaman had to go through to where they literally started exploding people. And none of them, we don't hear anything about any of them faltering, puking, being revolted by what they've done, or even reacting. It's almost like they were turned into the perfect killing machines, the perfect weapons of war, and just desensitized to it. And I'm like, how did Taim do that?
So I'll tell you exactly how he did it. I know exactly how he did it. Okay. There's two philosophies of going into battle that you need to understand. Now, I'll use the analogy of learning to ride a bike. You can read 25 books on how to ride a bike. You can understand the theory, you can understand the principle, you can understand the technique from a book sense. You can have it all up in here, and then the first time you go to ride a bike, you will fall. Absolutely 100%. Because there are things that you need to experience and receive that sort of haptic feedback upon that bike in order to understand or apply, would be a good way to put it, that knowledge that you have absorbed in that book. Now, is someone who read theory and understands theory, are they going to learn to ride a bike faster than someone who has absolutely no idea about the theory or the technique or anything? Absolutely. 100%. You can't, someone who already understands basic principles and has basic understanding of what they're attempting to accomplish is going to have that much more leverage over someone who has absolutely no idea what they're doing. It's why Aiel were so much more accomplished fighters. They'd spent that much more time understanding war and tactics and a lot of theory, as well as a lot of practice. You've got soldiers in Randland that have a lot of practice, but they don't have nearly the depth of battle theory or battle tactics understanding that Aiel do. Okay, so there's one method. Ashaman soldiers and dedicated of the Black Tower are very, very well versed in theory, tactics, what battle is, what is going to be expected of them, etc., etc. The other thing that is the other tool that is used to sort of desensitize them to that violence, I'm going to say, is twofold. One, you've got exposure to cadavers and corpses by way of the traitor's tree, right? Because if you run, if you leave, if you desert, they cut your head off, they hang it from the tree, and everybody has to look at the traitor's tree every day. So there's people with friends there, probably people with family there. And even if you don't know anybody there, even, oh no, there's Melanie. That's a shame. She was really nice. Even if you have no idea who that dude is that's head's hanging up on the tree, you're still looking at a disembodied head hanging on a tree. And you see that and you sort of become fine with it in your day-to-day. Then you have men who are taken by the taint, taken by the madness. They get to a point where it's like, yeah, no, you got to go, buddy. I can't believe that there's one person administering special wine. I would believe that even with Tame, he gets probably more grisly in that, and probably has execution squads, almost like Matt's Red Arms. This is a guess. This is totally a guess. But I almost imagine that Taim has like Red Arms at the Black Tower. That's like watching people getting, I don't want you getting too insane. If you get too crazy, and I would even be willing to venture a guess to say that Taim would not mess with this process, because even he needs to reap soldiers and recruits from the Black Tower. So I imagine he takes monitoring of the taint and the madness quite seriously. So when you see people, dying around you every day in training, burning out in training, heads hanging from a tree, like, the Black Tower is not a friendly place for soldiers dedicated in Ashaman. So I would imagine, and I would even imagine that Robert Jordan took a lot of his inspiration for training at the Black Tower early on from, more extreme groups like, the Russian Spetsnaz special forces kind of a thing, where death and chaos become a part of your normal day-to-day routine. So when you show up, you know exactly what you're about to do to these people. You're about to hurt these people. And that's just all there. That's just part of your daily routine.
There is a third way. And it is...
Third way, you say, sir?
It's a third way to completely desensitize a war-fighting or battle-waging population to carnage and death of war. And you have to absolutely, unequivocally dehumanize the opponent. You have to have your forces convinced that they're not human, that they are not the same species, the same level as the warfighters you have. This is a technique that I don't know how many people realize that. I think a lot of people realize it, but there's probably a lot of people that don't. This is like one of the most popular techniques used by world militaries today. Because when we were sending troops into Iraq and Afghanistan, we weren't saying, we're going to go fight the bad guys, the bad people. We're going to go deal with terrorists. Yeah. We're going to go deal with insurgents. We're going to go, deal with this or that.
That's a really
other
good point.
Phrases that distance them from the aspect of humanity, because a warfighter that begins to humanize their enemy becomes predisposed to mercy towards enemy. This was one of the lessons learned in Vietnam. I think the statistic was like something like 70 to 80% of troops shot over the heads of enemy troops in Vietnam whenever they fired and engaged. It was a crazy high number.
It was one of the most frustrating things from a military standpoint, because they were over there. I'm sorry. Look, I get it. It's a distasteful subject a lot of times, but military forces around the world, it's their job to fight and kill. That is simply what their job is. And it's not to say that it's right or wrong. I believe in some cases it's very right, and I believe in some cases it's very wrong. But as Andrew is pointing out here, when you go over there and you start to say, that's a dude, he just wants to go home to his family, it becomes that much more difficult to end that person's life. And rightfully so, because we're empathetic human beings. You know, we're all human.
We're social creatures.
That's why these kinds of subjects are so difficult. Yeah. So no, you're absolutely right. And you even talk about that in, you can look to that in past times. You know, most forms of oppression, most forms of, violence done towards a demographic, we as humanity were only able to sleep at night after committing such atrocities because we believed somehow that we were morally correct in doing so, because we had dehumanized that group in some way.
And it still happens now. It still happens every day. You turn on the news and you can watch it happening.
Yep.
And it's just by the use of labels, of inherently morally abhorrent categorizations that will actively because it's an active process to do it, but passive because most people that are doing it don't realize that that's what's happening and that's what's being done.
Or that's why they're doing it.
Yeah. It separates whatever the group is, for whatever reason, for whatever, from their humanity. And that's how you justify forcing populations either to do or be subjected to absolutely horrendous things. And I mean, that's part of what made Spartan warrior society so efficient and effective. Like, they were relatively ruthless with their warriors. The training was ruthless. The throwing of the deformed children over a cliff, that's not necessarily exaggerated. Not
just Spartan deformed, sickly or small. If they were too small.
Yeah. If there was anything that caused them to raise an eyebrow about how fit the child was over the cliff. The sending of young boys out into the wilderness in all kinds of austere conditions, to come back or don't. It's it's a wild world. And I know they probably said it to you when you went to basic. They said it to me when I went to basic. And they're like, you are here so that we can break you down and build you back up again. They don't say build you back to do what we need you to do, to build you back to be a warfighter. They always say to build you back better than the worthless civilian you were when you got here. Their phrasing, not mine.
Yep.
I don't believe that civilians are worthless, because I kind of am one now. But again, it's that separation, right? They even within our own society, the military wants, either actively or passively, separates military members from civilians.
I would even say, so your original point is to dehumanize the enemy. I would even go a step further and say,
I was making a point,
to dehumanize yourself. Oh yeah, that's right. That wasn't a tangent. We were actually on topic. It just seemed like a tangent. But even Rand, when he forms the Black Tower, basically says, hey, look, we're all on a timeline. We're all on a clock here. We're all of us going to go mad and we're all going to die. Taim, I don't need men. I need weapons. And so Rafe, and Sarah, I know you guys watch regularly. One of these days I'm going to get in trouble for making that joke. Like Rafe's going to comment and be like, this is the first episode I tuned in. You guys are jerks. But I'm just saying, when you get to...
You'll remember today is the day that we were almost canceled by Rafe.
That's right. When you need drill instructors for the Black Tower, I'm just saying. All right? We got this down. We got this. We can do this.
That would actually be incredibly cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Right? I mean, tell me about it. That's what I'm manifesting that right now. Okay,
I just want to be in the background.
Manifest with me.
I just want to be in the background, just like knife handing Dammer Flynn. Just what the fuck, Flynn? What happened to the space in between your fucking ears?
Blood and ashes are you trying to accomplish with that weave there, dedicated? But where I was going with that was dehumanizing the self, removing the self out of it. Taim, I'm sure, spent a long time drilling it into their heads. You are a male channeler. You are the scum of the earth. You are everything that is wrong with this world. So the best thing you can do with your small patch of miserable existence is to serve the dragon before you die in battle or go insane, and you better pray to the light that you die in battle. That's the speech right there. Rafe, you can borrow that.
Well, we want it back. More specifically, Josh wants it.
So long as I can say it.
No, it only plays during the first airing of that episode, and then it gets edited out every other one.
It was like in the premiere, season 4 premiere, and it's the Black Tower, and it's like only used in the trailer.
Yeah. He doesn't give it back and like show up on his trailer, knocking on his door, being like, "We're here to repossess the speech." You know which speech.
Oh shit! Yeah,
but yeah,
I love it.
Anyway, tactics. We always delve into, and I love doing it. We delve into like the morality and mentality. I mean, you kind of have to understand how the tactics work.
Well,
yeah.
They're not, the tactics, as good as they are, cannot be effective if the people executing them are not up to the task. Is that a good way of saying it? I think so.
Yeah, no, I think it is. So another important point of note is their formations and their tactics encompass inherently a massive amount of spatial awareness. Or whenever I went to training, they call it situational awareness. Keep your head on a swivel. To the point where like people would sneak up on you and everybody would make fun of you, like, "Oh, basic situational awareness. Oh, look at me, I snuck up on you." Bastards. But
right,
this is what they do. Like
they drills in the middle of the night, come and wake you up. Situational awareness. What the fuck, dude? I was asleep. You're supposed to be guarding me. You're the one on duty.
Or you just shit your pants and be like, "Same to you."
Right?
Should have heard that one coming. I don't know. Surprised they didn't call me the skunk gun basic. That was my defense tactic.
Podcast.
We'll be up in the middle of the night. I would try my best to just shit my pants. Be like, we're all going to suffer for this.
Let's go. One body, one mind, one soul, one goal, baby.
And a lung full of methane. Well, yeah. So when they take out their formations, everything
that they take place in.
Well, I was just saying, like, because they form a circle around the entire encampment, so they can watch in all directions and they can react to threats as they come up, which is 360. That's one of the most basic military formations. a helicopter lands,
Yeah.
and a bunch of dudes with guns get out. All right, well, pew pew. Sorry, fucking YouTube.
Cover.
Yeah, and they 360.
Yeah, you can't say the G word. Edit that out.
Yeah,
we don't want to get canceled.
I'll probably leave it in. We're not monetized anyway, so who cares?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. We don't have 1,000 followers yet.
Yeah. But yeah, so the next so Demise Wells was the first field test. Next is they were used to push the Seanchan out of Ilion in Path of Daggers.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is actually where they're first like really tested it, because it's not a surprise to the enemy. The enemy has fought against other channelers numerous times. They're fair. Now, the fact that most of the Damane are using, all the Damane are using Saidar, and they're fighting against Saidin, and they can't see the weaves, gives them,
it's like slap fighting a ghost
edge,
but with the knives.
But at the same time, they're also familiar with fighting other channelers, so they're like, okay, cool, they're gonna throw weaves at us. We need to, and this is actually one of the things that Robert Jordan is never really clear upon, because you've got that beautiful exchange between Pavara and Andral where they're kind of like sparring. They're like lovers sparring, lovers quarrel sparring, and then they like fall into each other's arms, and Andral's like, are you as turned on as I am right now? And Pavara goes, what? And he goes, what? But it talks about how she's able to cut down weaves of other Ashaman who come in who are under Taim's control. How? Is she just really good at anticipating where they're going to attack from? I would have to imagine that would be the case. The Seanchan coming in have highly skilled, highly trained Damane, essentially very efficient weapons of mass destruction, very effective weapons of mass destruction. And you've got the Ashaman of the Black Tower, who at this time are really untrained, unrefined in their battle tactics. At Demise Wells, it worked because you had channelers going up against non-channelers. You had surprise, as Admiral Yamamoto says, one of the most important things in the battlefield. Demise Wells changed the world. That was the first time that channelers fought channelers, basically, in recent memory in the timeline. And now you've got Black Tower versus Seanchan. Highly trained Seanchan, raw power, non-refined Black Tower Ashaman. And it doesn't really go too well for the Ashaman. I mean, they get their punches in, but it ain't no Demise Wells. And they're humbled very quickly. And they're given a lesson of, you need to refine your tactics. This whole show up in force and bludgeon them isn't going to work against people who know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, because this Demise Wells was over, and once the Ashaman showed up, it was over in, let's say, a matter of 10 minutes. Let's just give it 10 minutes. And that's being generous, I think. I don't think it took 10 minutes. I think it took like 5.
From the command of Ashaman kill.
I don't know. I think from their arrival, but it's not that big of a difference. But in contrast, this battle here in Ilion last 5 fucking days. This is 5 straight days of battle.
That's a
so this is where the Ashaman, this is where the Ashaman get tested, and like they've already been tested in their battle ability. Now they have to be tested in their war fighting ability, because wars are comprised of continuous battle. And sometimes the battle's 10 minutes, sometimes the battle's 10 fucking weeks or longer. Just ask Manetheren.
That is very well
wait, you can't
put.
Oh! It's not their fault.
Weep for Manetheren. Cry for the blood of Amen. Cry for Manetheren.
But yeah, so by the end of it, like they're having to deal with prisoners now, and they have a mix of regular foot soldiers and different forms of regular fighting troops. But then they also have like 23 Soldam and 2 damane. I think this is also like where we first get the like whole like hey like fucking what is it, Arlen and the Lom is like Saidin feels kind of weird, bruh. Rand's like it always feels weird. What the fuck you on about?
Well, it was that was one of the Forsaken, wasn't it? He was disguised as an Ashaman at the time, and he approaches Rand and is like, dude, Saidin is not okay. And the reason he was brave enough to say it to Rand is because he knows how Saidin's supposed to feel. And it was shortly after Narishma had brought Kalendor to Rand, and I believe the situation there was that Rand's will as the most powerful ta'veren ever, combined with the taint, combined with the flaw in Kalendor, created a sort of wantonness, strangeness.
You're thinking about the Shiva. The Shiva is the second to mention it to Rand.
Yes.
And it's the Shiva that actually, because it's already been mentioned, and Rand is like kind of like, just whatever. But the Shiva actually kind of forces Rand to look at a weave, and Rand's like, huh. Yeah, something do be looking a little fucky. Because this is whenever, like, literally everybody, well, not everybody, Bashir, you know, the one guy that has, I don't know, war fighting and campaign experience is like,
well, you know,
we should be happy that we drove them out of Ilion. You know, let's leave it at this. Let's regroup, rest, and all that kind of shit. And Rand kind of like, in one of the few times, especially mid to late book series, that we see Rand cave to the will of like High Lords, he kind of agrees with the High Lords on this one. Is like, you know what? I could destroy the Seanchan now. Let's go do that. And not the move. It was kind of not the play there, boss.
Well, and Rand is sort of in the same kind of position, right? Where he's going, I've got lessons to learn. He doesn't know he has lessons to learn. He's kind of on a high right now. The Black Tower shows up and they're like, boom, we got this. They're able to see, you're correct. They're able to push Seanchan out of Ilion, but it's not enough, obviously, for Rand, and he goes nuts with Kalendor. But from a Black Tower perspective, from an Ashaman perspective, they kind of go, okay, that was a lot harder than it should have been. We need to evaluate what tactics we use. I can't even recall specific tactics used by Ashaman at that battle.
Which one?
When they were driving the Seanchan out of Ilion, what I can remember from it is that they tried to do a lot of things with the power, and a lot of their weaves were cut by damane, and the damane were launching attacks of their own, and they were like, we've never fought channelers before. This is weird. How do we do this? Because damane were well versed in fighting channelers.
Yeah.
It goes back to my topic earlier about understanding the theory of a thing versus understanding the practice of a thing. Damane understood the theory of fighting channelers. The Black Tower did not. So when the two met, yeah, they're both on quote, quote, equal footing because neither one of them have fought against the opposite power, Saidar and Saidin. Neither one of them have fought against the other side of the power, but the Damane had the advantage of saying, we've fought against other channelers before. We understand the theory of it. We understand the practice of it. We're going to have a much bigger advantage in this conflict than someone who has absolutely no idea what it's like to fight against another channeler.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's interesting because this is the battle where, like, you know, Rand starts killing his own troops with Kalendor.
He kind of goes nuts.
Well, he gets fully engrossed in. He's so far convinced that they can win, and not just that they can win, that they must win here and now. That he does, just like he did in the Stone of Tyr, whenever he tried to revive the dead. Whatever means necessary, I'm here. I am enough. I can make anything happen, especially with Kalendor. And up until this point, Rand still believed if he was wielding Kalendor, then he could do anything in the world. And it just simply isn't true. Now, you do kind of have the side effect that, yeah, the Seanchan are handedly defeated here. They're like, we've got to fucking get out of here. There's nothing left. We don't have enough forces to hold Abu Dar anymore. Because I believe they get pushed from Ilion into Abu Dar. Yeah, or at least into the area around Abu Dar. So is he successful? Yeah, but it kind of depends on your metric for success. Could he have just stopped after driving them out of Ilion and regrouped and, you know, let his forces that have been fighting for 5 days rest? Yeah. But I think what came away from it was you did get that serious battle experience. You now have Asha'man that have an idea and can conceptualize fighting against other channelers, especially channelers who they can't see the weaves of, which is invaluable experience. Who also now have a better understanding for battle fatigue and what it really feels like to be forced to fight for so long that, like, you feel like you're going to drop any second. But if you do, you all die. But I think this also starts to show a lot of people, like, how you have to watch the orders that you're given. That ambition and hubris and arrogance destroy your tactics. It doesn't matter how good of a plan you have if everybody's too fucking tired to do it. And Rand thinks he's enough to overcome that, and it's just not that. And that's what you get, like a single person tactics.
Well,
you know, versus, you know, the expert sitting there being like, yeah, no, we shouldn't do this.
Well, so you've got a couple of things have happened at this point in time, right? One, Rand has had a sword master, blade master, a Heron Mark, tried and true and tested blade master at the Black Tower, training soldiers and dedicated to become blade masters. So in theory, all Asha'man are blade masters, or they should be. Taim has sent this person away, and Rand has been like, you go find him and get him back here. Because after Demise Wells, Rand learned a very important lesson about knowing how to fight when the power is not available to you. After this confrontation with Seanchan, what do we get? We get a moth. Get out of here. Sorry.
Get a moth?
After this confrontation with Seanchan, I've got a moth just like blah, blah, blah. After this confrontation with Seanchan, we get the Black Tower and Rand kind of going, okay, we need to know how to fight a prolonged battle. We need to know how to maintain our fighting capabilities effectively without overtaxing our people. Eventually, Rand, has his revelation. He turns from Darth Rand to Bodhisattva Rand, and one of the things he really, really, really understands, or at least comes to understand, is that I need men. I need people. I can't do this without that human connection, without that thing that makes people, right? And it's after this that he starts telling, I think he tells Taim even, he's like, no, I was wrong. You need to tell people I was wrong. We need people to have something to fight for. We need to have something to live for. But it's shortly after this now is when we get to the first kind of presence at like Maradon, right?
No, I think the next is when they. Oh well, it's not. They fight, but so you hit a point where we're in Knife of Dreams, chapter 18, where about half of the Black Tower is in Ilian, and the other half is in Eredamon, with a small contingent. I think Taim and a few others are in Tyr. It's either Taim or Logain that's in Tyr. I can't remember which one. Guess not. Sorry, but this is more of like a policing mission, like a UN peacekeeper mission kind of deal.
Right.
But because it's like go in because people are exploiting, they're committing other atrocities and crimes. And of course, the Seanchan are always a looming threat. But after this kind of like police action is when what remains essentially of the tower does fall under kind of Rodel Zarate and goes to Sandian to help fight against the Trollocs.
Yeah, well, he's actively recruited by Rand, who promises him channelers to help do the thing, and Rand recruits him while he's in the throes of his Darth Rand phase, his emo phase, his Tobey Maguire Venom phase, and Rodel. I strongly suspect that Rodel agrees to go largely because of Rand's Ta'veren nature. He doesn't really know why he's agreeing to do it. He just knows the pattern needs him to do it. Goes up to the border, fights for weeks without any support, gets to Maradon, is taking loss after loss after loss after loss after loss. And then Rand comes in and kind of just saves the day. And that's the kind of the part that we remember. But at the same time, this is where we start to see a more strategic use of channelers. And especially when we get to the last battle, you get a more in-depth sort of analysis on it, where they say, look, the other side has channelers too. We have to assume that the other side has everything we have. We can't just send an Ashaman into battle and tell them Ashaman kill and have it work. You guys are really, really great with squad tactics. And I would even suggest that as the Black Tower evolves, as it grows, as it learns, and as its experience becomes greater, I would even suggest that dedicated would then take place in those Ashaman kill, rolling ring of earth and fire style battle formations. Ashaman would take place as, I don't know, officers, probably not officers, probably more like sergeants, platoon leaders, squad leaders, that kind of a thing, where you would have an Ashaman over a squad, platoon, or team of non-channelers that would add to the overall efficacy of that platoon and or squad and or fire team and or however they had that divided up. But and then, who knows, a couple of squadrons of channelers to band up and launch the more devastating attacks as a group.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, it starts to get into some of the stuff we've talked about before with, what does the Black Tower look like in its structure, like, post last battle, going into the Fourth Age and beyond. How are they going to do that? How are they going to reconcile that? And I do think they have to do something, because I think that's one of the things that Egwene realizes relatively, I don't want to say early on, but at an opportune time where it's like, if you don't realize it now, it won't ever be useful. That they have all of these accepted who are powerful and talented and have been trained and know the stuff, that the White Towers essentially operated on this philosophy of, if you're not an Aes Sedai, you kind of don't count. You're there, you're trained, you're taught. Otherwise, you don't count. You don't get a say. You don't go out and do anything.
Right.
Whereas the Black Tower has categorically been different from the start. Like, okay, yeah, you each have your ranks, and it's representative of like your skill level, presumably, and that kind of thing. But when it comes time to fight, you're all going. Soldier, dedicated, Ashram. Right. In fact, the Ashram made up a very few number of the Black Tower troops that were with Rodel. It was predominantly like dedicated and soldiers with some Ashman.
Right.
But yeah, I think you're right that you'll have, they'll either be special purposed out and tasked with going in smaller, more like kind of clandestine groups as full-fledged Ashman to take care of like more critical functions of battle or more critical objectives. And then you'll have some that are going to function as the battlefield leaders. For sure, leading over dedicated.
I can even see where you have what is it in Naruto? You've got like academy. Well, you've got like academy graduate, Genin, and then Jonin, right?
Genin, Chunin, Jonin.
There it is. Genin, Chunin, Jonin. So I can even see this as sort of mirroring that sort of format where you've got Genin, who are these soldiers, who are basically in all forms and purposes trainees. The one difference I would say is that I wouldn't say that the soldiers would be the ones. I think they would be going out on missions, but they'd be much like lesser sort of things to do. I feel like the soldiers would spend a lot more time inside the Black Tower walls until they graduate to the level of dedicated, which would be in Naruto universe would be Chunin. But as we know from in Naruto, the Genin are going out on missions with Jonin escorts to learn to propagate their skills and whatnot. I would imagine soldiers would be. Yes, absolutely. And it's not I would imagine in the Black Tower you'd have soldiers who are largely inside the Black Tower walls, basically proving their worth, basically proving that they're competent with the power, competent with a sword, competent while unarmed, and also competent intellectually with that situational awareness. Once you reach the level of dedicated, now you're given some responsibility. Now you're to the point where, hey, you're dedicated, act like it. We need you to accomplish this. And they may have Ashman escorts, they may have Ashman mentors, Ashman trainers, those kinds of things. But I feel like when you get to the level of dedicated, that's when you're going to start seeing more of the act. I'm talking later on in the Black Tower, right? Because as we know, when it comes to the Wheel of Time series as we know it, soldiers, dedicated, Ashman, doesn't matter. You have different roles, but you're all going into the fight.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree. I think it'll trickle down. I think a lot of it'll be like based off the perceived importance and danger of whatever mission they're given. And that will dictate like kind of which squads or whatever that they send out on the missions. But I could see it being a trickle down thing where you have squads or elements of soldiers that have a dedicated leader, a dedicated as their dedicated leader. The kind of goes around with them, and then an Ashman assigned to be the leader of dedicated squads. And then you have the Ashman themselves that are all like considered fully trained and capable. And then just again to use Naruto again, you have a split where you have like your Jonin style people that are there for like a main battle force. They're a main very perceivably skilled and powerful battle force, but also like the overarching instructors and mentors for the overall training and education. And then you have those that are Jonin level that go on and get like extra specialized training to where they become perceivably stronger, like the Anbu, because you have to reach Jonin level strength before you can join the Anbu Black Ops in the Naruto universe. And those are the ones you send on the clandestine missions. They're the ones that are like the behind the shadows, like Secret Service agents for the Hokage and all that. So they'd probably be like a group that would go around like whenever you had the Mahales that had to go do diplomacy missions, whatever. They'd have probably a group of Ashaman that would come with them, and they'd probably have a tag-along group of like, a dedicated squad or a soldier squad, depending on what was appropriate for the situation to go and get worldly experience. I think the biggest problem they're going to have is going to be getting any kind of the same problem that the Green Aja has, getting any kind of combat experience. Except now there'll actually be a good justification for why you don't have combat experience. Not just there was an opportunity and we never used it. I will never let that go. I will never let that go. They had fucking 3,000 years to post up in the Borderlands and get actual battlefield experience. But you didn't.
Dude. Yeah, no.
And then that would have given the yellow, and you could have gone with the yellow Aja. They could have got 3,000 years of medical first aid experience. Could you imagine the leaps and bounds of discovery that would have happened had they gone for 3,000 years and actually practiced battle? Who knows? Maybe Rand would have been like just a little bit of an aid. I doubt it, but or maybe that's why. Maybe it's plot reasons why they never did.
I can see the Black Tower not doing it because, I mean, the Black Tower was founded at 7:59 on the midnight doomsday clock. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But the White Tower, y'all have no excuses. You should have had squadron. The Green Aja should have had a representative at the White Tower and all the other Green Sisters on the border. The Yellow Aja should have had a representative at the White Tower and all the Yellow Sisters in the Borderlands. Like there's no excuse for how ill prepared the White Tower is. Yeah,
I can agree to the Yellow Tower, to like the Yellow Aes Sedai being scattered around the Westlands. It's kind of like a Doctors Without Borders kind of thing, but the same effect.
How
are you going to be a servant of all, but you don't ever try to go out and heal people? Come on.
But there
was the occasional one, but I don't know. I mean, it could have been a thing that there was more, and that was just something that got cut or just didn't get explored, or we were meant to infer from like the two maybe that we saw, and one of which doses fuckers with fork root tea because they're loyal to Elida, so they're instantly out of the pot of like, oh, they're doing the right thing. But
dude,
I don't know. I mean,
what gets me about that is I think we're led to believe that Balzaman Ishii in his like once every 40 years or whatever There's like 40 years every 400, whatever it is.
Every 40 years, every 1,000 years.
Yeah. He's the responsible party for that. That would be my guess. He's laying foundations, that planting seeds, as it were. But
Is he laying foundations?
As far as the Black Tower comes,
whenever he lays a seed.
Yeah.
Laying foundations by laying pipe whenever he sows a seed.
The seed is strong.
I mean, that is a fair explanation. That, like, in between him and other Legacy of the Dark Ones, they've infiltrated enough of the White Tower, because it is unfair and unrealistic to believe that there were no Dark Friends in the tower prior to when you start seeing, like, Agenor and Balthamo. In book one, right. Like, oh no, at that moment now, suddenly Dark Friends. Like, no, they've always existed. And it could have just been that influence where it's like, finally convince the Aes Sedai, because, they're deathly afraid of losing any sort of influence. Like, well, if we spread ourselves too thin, Mother, we will have no influence and the rulers won't listen to us.
Right.
But it actually would have been quite the opposite. Like, no, they'll be indebted because now everybody with herpes syphagana colitis after festivals in Ebu Gar and Aradomon just got healed by the Yellow Asha. So, do you want a global pandemic? Not sending out the Yellow Asha is how you get a global pandemic.
That's why we have COVID right now. Yeah. Where are you, Yellow Asha? You're sitting in your damn tower. Sorry, there aren't enough Ashman healers.
Yeah. The weave hasn't gotten FDA approval yet, or an emergency use authorization by Mother. But any day now.
any day.
Yeah.
Oh God, no. So when you get to the last battle, you start to see a more
cautionary force.
A more pragmatic use of all channelers, right?
Yeah,
because we know that the forces of the shadow have dreadlords, but they do focus less specifically on actual tactics of male channelers, and they go more to the story of what's happening, and that's fair. I feel like you and I would read it and be like, fuck yeah, what are the Ashman doing? But as for readers in general, we want to know what's happening with everybody, not just the Black Tower, which is why I state very passionately that we need a Wheel of Time Black Tower spin-off series. And if I don't get it, I will cry. So maybe what we'll have to do is do another episode on this where we discuss future tactics of the Black Tower. So let us know in the comments below if you want more of us talking battle tactics of the Black Tower. What are your final thoughts, Andrew, when it comes to tactics employed and or used by the Black Tower?
I'm not gonna lie, I am far more impressed with how they conduct themselves at Demise Wells than I am at any of their other battles. However, every single one of their other battles is, by the end of it, more difficult than Demise Wells. Demise Wells was a single instance lasting 5, 10, 15 minutes. You show up, you blow your load, and you go home and go to bed. It's really easy to perform in that situation. Yeah.
And Ender's Game. You win in such a fashion that the enemy has no appetite to continue fighting.
And that specific instance, it caters very well, or lends itself very well to the manner in which they were trained. Because I definitely see Mazrim focusing more on, you should be so strong and skilled that you show up and within 5 minutes the battle is over because you overwhelm your enemies. That's what the Lord Dragon demands of you. JK, that's what the Mahale, demand of you. Because if you can get people that are that strong and you can turn them all to your side, like the rest of the Forsaken can kiss every last square freckle of your asshole. I don't know why I think there would be freckles on a Time's asshole, but you never know.
I have it on a good source that there are at least 4 freckles.
He's got 3 tantalizingly tainty freckles on his taint hole.
And a couple on the taint as well.
Yeah. But the rest of the battles they're kind of against the mentality of the Black Tower's training. They're not shock and awe battles. They're not won by shock and awe because you're in the next one in Ilion, you're fighting against the Seanchan, who use shock and awe tactics. So whenever they see people blowing up, 60 to 100 feet in the sky, they're like, "Oh, cool, we can do that too." So it doesn't really, it's not as effective against the Seanchan morally, because a big part of the way that the Black Tower defeated the Shido at Demise was a moral defeat. Destroyed their ability to fight.
Oh, Matt Stagger.
We're on the Patreon if y'all want to see the live stuff that makes us laugh. But yeah, the rest of their battles are they're true battles in the sense of battles, and it is interesting to see how the initial formation ideologies of the power of the Black Tower doesn't work as well as I think a lot of them expected it would in the following battles, but that's how it goes. A country develops a massive shock and awe weapon that's super effective the first time it's used, and then it's never as effective the next time it's used. Like, nobody's going to be shocked whenever we if we were to drop another Moab.
Sure.
Nobody's going to be shocked.
Sure. What about you? I have to say that I agree. In the sense that when it comes to shock and awe, it only works the first time. The second time, if you try and do the same thing, it's not going to be nearly as shocking.
Unless it's the shocker. The shocker works every time.
I would equate Black Tower battle tactics to Tony Stark. Okay. There's really great YouTube videos that talks about Tony Stark and the lessons he learned with his suit in each battle. And they talk about, Ant-Man is able to crawl into the plates the crack between his armor. His armor isn't able to function in space. So what does he do? He goes to nanotechnology. Now nothing's able to crawl in, and he can use his suit in space. He fights Thanos. The nano weapons become melee weapons that he's able to fight Thanos with. But the nanobots are depleted, so he rebuilds the nanobots and is able to use like energy style weapons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The idea here being that the Black Tower, when they enter into a battle, they do a thing that works for them. Demise Wells. It works. It's great. It's amazing. They show up in Ilion and they're like, okay, it kind of worked, but we've got some lessons to learn. And as they continue forward, their understanding of a war fighting effort as opposed to a battle winning effort increases with each engagement. It increases their ability, their capability, their understanding increases with each engagement. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why we have such strong representation in the last battle. And were we to have a fourth age story in the Wheel of Time, I feel like the Black Tower would be one of the most respected entities for their role in vanquishing the Shadow in the last battle and their continuing efforts to provide peace and security throughout the Westlands
My new empire,
while still operating within the Dragon's Peace. What?
Peace and stability in my new empire. I also want to see like a spinoff of a spinoff.
I'm Anakin Sorovan Mahale.
The IL channelers trained to be like the Dragon's Peace Enforcers by the Black Tower, but it's like Super Troopers.
Clone Wars meets Super Troopers through a filter of the Wheel of Time. Boom! Done.
Yeah.
I'm in. That's it. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being the best damn piece of the Black Tower podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. We hope you have enjoyed the flavor of this week's dose of taint. And we hope that wherever you are, you leave this episode just a little bit more insane than you were when you first arrived. Go to blacktowerpod.com for all of our social medias. Check out our Patreon for sweet bennies. Check out our social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube. We got big things coming. We got big things coming to our YouTube. YouTube's going to blow up. We got the Gathering Madness coming for one, and you don't want to miss any of the panels or fun stuff we're going to be doing for that.
What he said.
Yeah. What else you got, Andrew? What else is there? There's more stuff.
You want to get some nice, tasty energy? What I was drinking all day today with the cute little anime girl on it. There's a link below in the description, or you can just go to w.gg and use code BTP for 10% off. Yeah, W
That's
order.
true.
It's really good. Generalist energy. It just kept me awake all night after a day of work and no sleep the night before. So it definitely works. In the right circumstances, more than two scoops does not absolutely drive you crazy. I've probably had the equivalent of 3 scoops.
W at the Gathering Madness.
Oh yeah, let me bring these inconspicuous containers full of white powder on the plane.
Hey, I'm bringing Dub Sludge, and I'm bringing their new peach flavor.
Is that the new one? Like the brand new one?
Not the new. The new is.
It's not that new.
It's not that new. It's only the new. From all of us here at the Black Tower, I've been your Sorovan Mahale, Josh.
And I've been your Bajan Mahal, Andrew. Oh, that hurt.
And I'm sure if Daniel were here, he'd say something like, and I've been your Amin Khan Mahale, Daniel. And we hope that wherever you are, you're having a good morning, evening, afternoon. I don't know. I can't say it. How does he say it? I don't know.
Wherever you are, we hope you're having
whatever
a
Daniel
fantastic morning. And in case I don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
In the tower, you can bring your pain. In the tower, you can feel the strain. You've been having so much trouble just fitting